All right, keep our fingers crossed that Facebook goes live.
And attendees are starting to come in.
Okay. Oh.
Folks, I'm going to mute everybody for the moment. You're on the honor system. Natasha, would you just make me host again?
Give her a moment. She's still setting up the Facebook.
Uh-oh. My mistake. Sorry. I do like that closed caption somehow had Natasha as Joshua.
Julio, oh, I just had it. Hold on. I'm going to have it go live in the news feed, right?
It's to the Facebook page.
Yeah, to the news feed.
Yes.
Okay.
Folks, we're just a couple of minutes away. We don't have a quorum yet.
Oh, I didn't know I was muted. Hi, guys.
Hi, Gloria. No, we muted everybody right now.
Julio, so it's asking me use a stream key or use a paired encoder.
I'm not sure what that means. I don't think I've seen that pop up before.
Yeah, this is my first time seeing this too. All right, I'm just gonna hold on. Just put in the title, January board meeting.
Getting close.
All right, I'm gonna go live.
It says it's streaming live on mine.
It's still setting up on mine, so.
All right.
Okay, it's redirecting to Facebook Live page.
Ms. Deliva, John, I'm calling from the New York City Health and Hospital. About important health.
Can somebody mute that? Can somebody see that we're live on Facebook?
I'll check momentarily.
Okay. Because I just got an error message. This page isn't working right now.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it up.
All right. As long as we're recording, we could post it after.
You want me to try one more time?
Yeah, it's still 6:03. Give it a shot.
Okay. It's weird because when I click on the more, it tells me stop live stream. So we are streaming on Facebook somewhere. Let me see if it's on our Facebook page or the other one. Hold on. Yeah, we're streaming on Board 7 Brooklyn, so we're live.
All right, excellent.
All right, so let me just make you the host. Oops, where am I? Where are you, Jeremy?
My neighbor came home. Okay, I'm host again.
Yes,
Cesar, Cesar, we do have a quorum.
All right, great. Let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Cesar Zuniga, and I'm the chair of Community Board 7. First of all, Happy New Year. It feels like today specifically is like the new year. You know, there's a lot to celebrate in our country today. So let's, I want to go ahead and start officially open the meeting.
Cesar, we need to call attendance before you could open it.
Let's do that. Go right ahead.
Maria's going to call attendance tonight.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I will be calling your name. Once I call your name, can you please unmute yourself, say present, and then mute yourself once again? Thank you. Okay, Jose Aleman. Grisel Amador. Please unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself.
Present.
Thank you. Genesis Aquino. Alexa Aviles.
Hello, here.
Nicholas Azadian.
Present.
Joan Body.
Yeah.
Stacy Boyd.
Present.
Gladys Bruno.
Present.
Julixa Campusano. Joseph Canale. Denny Chen. Justin Collins.
Here.
Beatrice Sapio.
Yes.
David Estrada.
Here.
Cynthia Felix.
Present. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you? John Fontillas. Ken Fung. Ken Fung. I see you, Ken, but I can't hear you. All right, I'll mark you present because I can see you. John Garcia.
Present.
Anthony Giglio. Cynthia Gonzalez. Hector Gonzalez. Kenny Guan.
Maria, I see Hector Gonzalez is signed in, but we're still having a problem with his audio.
Okay, so I'll mark him present. Zach Jacey. John Johnston.
I'm here.
Beverly Kleinman.
Here, present.
Waco. Barbara Lee. Christina Lam. Jinghua Lee.
Here, present.
Okay, Paul Mack.
Present.
Antoinette Martinez. Aurelis Martinez. Marilyn Melman. Dan Murphy. Gloria Rodriguez Navoa. Okay, Gloria, I see that you are present. Gloria, you here? Okay.
Here.
Julio Pena.
Here.
Rovika Roshkenshan.
Here.
Karen Rolnick.
Here.
Pat Ruiz.
Here.
Sam Sierra.
Here. Good evening, everyone.
Brian Slater.
Here.
Victor Swinton.
Here. Good evening.
Cindy Vanderbosch.
Here.
Catherine Walsh. Fred Wolf. Cesar Zuniga.
Here, and I have a terrible.
Fred Wolf, I see that you're here, yes.
Present.
I just have a terrible internet connection, so if I bear with me if it doesn't work sometimes.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred. We caught all of that.
All right, attendance been taken.
Great. Okay, so before we get started with the agenda, I want to go ahead and recognize for the first time, and it's a real pleasure and honor to recognize our newly installed Assemblywoman. I thought I saw her. Marcella, are you here?
She's here.
Okay. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Are you guys able to hear me?
Sure
Or
can.
is there an echo? Okay, just wanting to make sure. So yeah, I'm really excited. I got introduced on the 11th. It's been kind of crazy. Things are moving really, really fast. I had session today and we were actually discussing repealing the walking wall trends. And that's something that I remember was really big during the campaign. So I'm excited that we're having discussions about it and we're going to be ready to vote. Next week, in particular, we're going to be reviewing the governor's executive budget. I've been assigned to 5 committees: education, transportation, children's and families, banks, and judiciary. We're setting up the district office. My intention was to take over the office that's there. There's some concerns about most of the office space being in the basement and no windows. So we're trying to figure it out and also just kind of like get installed as well. I'm going to be having a town hall on the eviction moratorium to make sure that folks have information. We're working on bills that are going to cancel rental payments for both residential and commercial tenants, and wanting to cancel mortgage payments for our small landlords, the ones that depend on their tenants for their rent to be able to pay for their mortgage. We don't want them to lose their home. We want to start trying to install measures that are going to stabilize the community while we continue to work on revenue raisers and assistance from the federal government. Yeah, that's it. I don't know if they're on, but I wanted to introduce my chief of staff.
You have to give me a name.
Yeah, let's.
Her name is Jenny Zhang.
I don't see her here.
Okay.
She might be here by a phone number, but I can't tell names there.
Okay. So I am in the process of hiring staff. I have a chief of staff. Her name is Jenny Zhang, and I've also hired a director of constituent services, and it's someone from the neighborhood. His name is David Sosa, long-term resident from Sunset Park, and he's coming out of the mayor's office of immigrant affairs.
I see David is on. So do we, Jeremy, can we just maybe show his face and allow him to introduce himself?
I promoted him to panelist. He could unmute himself and introduce himself.
David, the floor is yours.
Hey all, Sunset Park, born and raised. Happy to continue serving the community in another capacity. We'll be working with Marcella's team. Thank you for having me.
And happy New Year, everyone.
And Marcella, do you have time to take a few questions if folks have questions?
Sure.
Okay, so if anyone has questions for our assembly member,
please use the raise hand function.
Okay, I don't see any. This is your house, Marcella. You are one of ours, and you will always be one of our honorary board members. So really excited to see you there, and we're looking forward to working with you and all of the other electeds. So thank you for coming to the first meeting as a newly installed assembly member, and wishing you all the best, and we're here rooting for you. Thank you. Okay, let's go. So I want to now officially open the meeting and go straight to the agenda. Let's start with the adoption of the agenda. Any questions? Okay.
Excuse me, do you see present?
I'm sorry, who's that? Who's
Natasha, I'm sorry, Maria marked you present.
Oh, okay, okay. I just worry. My cell phone is not really working. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so Julio, do you move the agenda, and Pat, do you second?
Motion to adopt.
And Pat, you second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Against and abstentions. Okay, motion carries. Okay, let's go to the adoption of the minutes of the board meeting of December 16th.
Motion to adopt.
Seconded by Julio.
Second.
Does anyone oppose the adoption of the minutes? Okay, haven't seen none. And then by unanimous consent, motion carries. Okay.
Can I just want to thank Cynthia V for her hard work on these minutes. There's a lot of information. So thank you. It's a lot of work. We appreciate it. And we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we go to public comment. So this public comment is for topics that are on the agenda. So if has anyone signed up, Jeremy?
I see John Santore has raised his hand. Let me check the document. I don't see anything on the sign up document, so I just have John Santore right now. I see a panelist. Pat also has her hand up. Where should we start?
Let's recognize John and yeah.
John, you can unmute now.
Yes, can you hear me, Jeremy?
We can hear you and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you all and happy New Year to the board. And I just wanted to speak briefly about a resolution that came out of the Waterfront and Economic Development Committee. It is calling for a meeting about the Sunset Park Task Force, which, as you may know, is an organization that was created in 2015 to create a new RFP for the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal. And also, you'll hear about tonight the fact that the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal is now going to host a wind farm assembly a business by Equinor. So the resolution is calling for a public meeting about the Sunset Park Task Force with the goal, at least in my mind, the goal of discussing publicly what the future of that organization is and what it should take on and how it should operate. And I'm speaking in favor of the resolution because I believe that more public meetings and more public transparency and conversations are a good thing. In 4 years of observing this board, I've heard many times people talk about how this community wants to have its voice heard. And I believe that communities have their voice heard when there are institutional structures put in place to give people information and to let that voice be heard. So I think the Sunset Park Task Force is an example of where, after a dispute between Councilman Menchaca and EDC over the future of SBMT, an actual institution was created to allow public input. And now to take that institution the next step forward, I think the public, including this board, should be involved in discussing what form the Sunset Park Task Force takes. And it's my hope that once that happens, the community will have more access to more conversations that are tremendously important. I think tremendously important regarding economic development. One of them is the Made in New York campus. We have this Steiner Studios plan. It's a $320 million plan. It is moving forward, and I hope that this community can be involved in a serious way in understanding the way that plan both came together and is going to play out going forward. We also have the north portion of that campus. That is a $218 million proposal by EDC. And I think the community should have its voice heard loud and clear about whether or not that proposal makes sense and whether or not it should go forward. And there are many other issues that we could talk about. So I'm encouraging you to support the resolution and have that begin a conversation about how institutional structures can be created to allow more community input into local economic development matters. Thank you.
Perfect timing, John. Sorry about everybody.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments. Okay, let's now recognize Pat.
Hi, this is more about something that's been left out of the agenda. And I think it's time to bring it back. The Pledge of Allegiance, we stopped it. And I understand that during COVID and all of that, but I think especially in light of today and the new 4-year term of our VP and our new president, that I think it's time to start going back to it. I don't know if anyone else agrees or disagrees, but I think it's time for it to come back. And that's just it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, any other, Jeremy, any other folks signed up for public comment?
I don't see any. Oh, wait, nope. Three hands went up from panelists, or actually Pat's hand, I think, is still up. Then I see Gladys Bruno and Beverly Kleinman.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, are we live on Facebook now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because I didn't see it. Okay, I'll look again. Thank you. It was just that.
I wanted to say, I don't know if Pat made a motion. I'd like to second that. There was no response about the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, and so I'd like to have a conversation about that.
So yeah, I think I'm happy to take it into consideration. I'm not sure that we need to vote on it right now, but yeah, I'm happy to talk further with whoever wants to talk about it. And yeah, and frankly, this probably should have been in new or old business, but I'm happy to consider that. Absolutely. Okay. So any other public comment? Okay, cool. So let's go right to committee reports. So my understanding is the bylaws committee needs to be, the item needs to be referred back to the committee. So there isn't going to be any discussion on that.
Correct.
Correct, Julio?
Correct. Just to let board members know, we did hear back from a lawyer about the changes to the bylaws. Some of them are, the suggestions that they made were pretty minor, but the committee will be reviewing them and representing them back to the full board after we've met.
Excellent. Okay, so that conversation will take place in committee, and Julio will be reaching out to Jeremy to schedule the next meeting, hopefully as soon as possible. Okay, let's go to the Economic Development and Waterfront Committee. No vote is required. However, I will allow, is Dan Murphy on the call?
I'm here, yeah, and just a slight correction. There is a vote.
Oh.
There's a resolution that's come out of.
Okay, so take it away, Dan.
Okay, 1 second. Let me do a couple of things first. Got to bring up the document.
Jeremy, just to let you know, Jeremy, Hector Gonzalez and Genesis are both having trouble connecting into the meeting.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Alexa. Genesis texted me. She apparently did make it on, and
I'm here now.
She would like to be marked as present. Thank you.
Somebody emailed me, and it's from their phone. I couldn't tell, and I didn't have time to cross-reference it. I'm not sure if it was Genesis or somebody else.
Are we?
Okay, Dan, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks. So we met last Thursday, January 14th, via Zoom to discuss the siting of the Equinor offshore wind facility at the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal. So in succession, speaking for the Economic Development Corporation of New York City, which are the long-term leaseholders for the city of New York. They're the ultimate kind of owners of the place. Roddy Miranda was there from EDC. And he basically introduced, after setting it up through the RFP process, he introduced Julia Bovey from Equinor. Equinor is a Oh my God, are they Swedish or Norwegian? And is that racist? That I asked?
Norwegian.
Norwegian.
So, okay, so, so I'm okay. They're a Norwegian company. That is energy company that is in the offshore wind business, and so they want to set it up. The state put out the state and the city put out these bids. These guys won. They came to speak to us about the facilities, and so they were talking about, among other things, and make it most important, and that has to do with the vote tonight, is that they have agreed to commit $5 million to the local community for economic development purposes. There were some questions about how that would go into it. They were very open about having that as part of a community process to determine where that goes and how that happens. And then the ball is back in our court as to kind of guide them through that. Questions from the assembled were more requests for more information on types of employment available for applicants with differing skill sets and workforce development programs for minority and immigrant populations within the local neighborhood. There were requests for information about the levels of energy produced, its storage, its deliverance to end users. And I should have put and its ultimate price to end users. I could change that if I can change my own notes. There was questions about mitigating the negative effects on marine life where the wind turbines would be sited ultimately. There were requests to decouple the project from BP, British Petroleum, it used to be called, which is a partner in the project to create the facility and I guess the wind as well. A request that Equinor integrate near zero emissions policies in all regards to its facility and transportation fleet, and present the traffic study to the local community, maybe in conjunction with DOT, and that there are future meetings to update the board on fulfillment of the promises made and the obligations to act on community benefits. At the end of the, so you know what, I want to stop there. If there are any questions or things left out of those notes that should be spoken about before I present the resolution.
Board members, please raise your hands if you have questions.
None? I can't see too well.
I see no hands up.
Oh, shit. Excuse me. This is going live on Facebook. All right, so there is a resolution coming from the committee. I'll go back to it. It was presented by John Santore, who was at the meeting. And it goes as follows. Whereas the Sunset Park Task Force has been given direct influence over $5 million fund to be created by Equinor in support of New York's offshore wind industry. And whereas the Sunset Park Task Force is currently reviewing its policies internally, but has not stated if the public will be involved in those conversations, resolved that EDC, SPIDC, and Carlos and Councilman Menchaca's office should jointly host a public meeting as practically allowable to the public to comment on the future of the Sunset Park Task Force, its rules, responsibilities, and operating procedures. The committee voted by unanimous decision to recommend the resolution to the full board for a vote. And now I seek a motion to discuss the question and vote to call the question.
So we need a second. Correct.
Yeah, just like it's basically a fancy way of saying yeah, and let's talk about it and then vote on it.
All right. Syndica.
Yeah, I wanted to share it.
You have two devices open.
Time out. Someone has devices open. We're going to ask you to use one of the devices because we're getting massive.
So I'm going to mute everybody now. Everybody but me should be muted. You're not getting, so I'm not the one here. So I'm going to unmute Dan next. So Dan, I have to ask you to unmute.
Is it me?
Dan? Okay. Okay. So it's not you. And Cynthia Vandenbosch, I believe, was next.
Time out. Time out. It is Dan. The echo started and unmuted.
Do you happen to have two devices open?
I don't think so.
Can we mute again, please?
I'll talk. So I don't think it's me. Cesar, can you talk? See if you echo. Cesar?
I'm still hearing the someone has
so that sounds like it's me. So I'm going to mute myself, and then I will unmute Dan.
Dan.
I don't think I've been muted.
You're good. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Cindy, I'm recognizing you.
Okay. There's still a lot of happening, but I'll try to focus.
Wait, you know what? If I go on unmute, tell me if it stops. Just.
Okay. Oh, there's no echoing. Okay. So I just wanted to share. So I run a small business and am a permit holder from NYC EDC. We also have a contract for educational programming with EDC. So I'm not eligible to vote. So I'll be voting present. So I just wanted to state that as I did at the meeting last week.
Thank you, Cindy. Are there any other questions or comments on this motion? Justin, go ahead.
Sure. So if I'm involved in a project, it's nothing financial, but my organization is hosting a series of employer symposiums with EDC. Is that a problem for voting?
I don't think so, but Julio, or if someone else has, yeah.
I mean, I can't, like, I can't tell you.
I mean, yeah. we don't have any financial arrangement or anything like that. So,
yeah, okay. I don't think so.
I'm no expert on it, but I don't believe I think if there's no financial interest, then there's no conflict for you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much.
I'm going to go ahead and recognize Alexa now.
Hi, Dan. I don't know if you'll be able to respond with the echo, but so is part of the whole package that's being offered, there is a $5 million allocation that they will work on with the task force. I guess I'm confused what the $5 million fund is. Is that a request or is that something that they have offered as part of the work?
$5 million was the commitment to, they were going to donate it. I don't know if it was going to one amount or over time to target it to some local economic development, either a program or an organization. So what it says in the resolution, and I was going to point this out, it should not be as specifically targeted because we don't know that the Sunset Park Task Force is going to be given that money. I don't think the Sunset Park Task Force is an organization anyway. It's not. I don't think it's a 501c3 that could take such money. So the language in that resolution would have to be changed as to because the resolution is about the Sunset Park Task Force in a large degree. If you just go like, I'll just read the resolved part. The resolved part is that the EDC at South Brooklyn Industrial Development Corporation and Councilman Menchaca's office should jointly host a meeting to allow public comment on the future of the Sunset Park Task Force, its rules, responsibilities. So the resolution is really about the Sunset Park Task Force as much or more about the $5 million that Equinor is getting. the resolution should probably better state that, as you know, that the Sunset Task Force is set to have a role in the distribution of this $5 million that has been worked out in the lease with Equinor for the purpose of community development. That's really what it should say. So it's asking for a meeting about the Sunset Park Task Force, and then through that having some more knowledge, some widespread knowledge about how the money will be spent and what it's spent on.
Okay, thank you. Alexa, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clarification, Dan. I guess it also begs the question whether or not the Sunset Park Task Force will be the only entity to weigh in on the distribution or allocation of those funding. It feels like the resolved is also asking for some transparency, so around their processes and protocols. And so it feels like there's two separate asks here, both about the task force and transparency and how it operates, and then obviously some transparency and clarity around this $5 million. Where is it housed? Who gets to determine its allocation in community, whether it's just the pet task force or if it's a larger entity that either get appointed or anything like that.
So I think as far as how that $5 million is, first of all, where it's written, so we can see it. It's probably not something. It shouldn't be something that should be so proprietary if it's for community benefit.
So Dan, John Santore has more information on the $5 million. He wrote it in the Q&A. Anybody could read it. I would need the chair to allow him to speak if he wished to do that. I could read the Q&A. So
let's let John make a comment. Yeah, let's just do that, just to clarify this.
Hi, everyone. So regarding the two things, so there is an overall point on the Sunset Park Task Force, and the resolution is calling for a public meeting on that, so that at least the point of the resolution in my mind is to allow the public to comment on the future of the task force. The direct connection to the $5 million is that according to notes that were produced by EDC and were given to the task force that I got from EDC and from CB7, Equinor is going to establish a $5 million fund to create a job pipeline into the wind industry, the offshore wind industry. And according to those EDC notes, the fund will be spent down over basically a decade. And the Sunset Park Task Force basically has an advisory role. So the exact notes from EDC, which I put into the chat, are basically saying that the Sunset Park Task Force will be allowed to advise on how that money will be spent. And then EDC and Equinor will have the final say on how the money is spent. But according to EDC's notes, it's explicit that the Sunset Park Task Force is the organization that has a direct say over the $5 million, at least an advisory say. If anybody on the task force or with deeper knowledge of the task force, maybe David Estrada or anybody else can speak to that, because I know David is part of it, that would be great. But that's my understanding based on EDC's notes that were given to CB7. So it's an advisory role, and the resolution is therefore designed to encompass both. It's saying that the Sunset Park Task Force, we should talk about its future, but one of the reasons it's urgent to talk about its future is that it has just been given advisory input over this $5 million fund to be created by Equinor.
Thank you, John. And now I'm going to go ahead and recognize David Estrada.
Yeah, I think I'm on that task force, by the way. Now I'm hearing echoes. I think the advisable thing to do now is to use the community board's voice in the spirit of the resolution to call on the EDC on the points of transparency and a briefing on what the status is on these items and what documents are governing them. To me, it's very analogous to the community benefit fund that's associated with the general lease, sublease for SBMT, which is a separate item. Also something that needs to be administered over time, on the scale of like 30 years. So I think we're on really strong footing to call on the EDC, both to explain the task force's current status, where it might increase transparency, and in what ways the community at large and CB7 specifically would be informed and part of that process. And I do want to stress, like, generally speaking, my experience on that task force is it truly is, broadly advisory and, a good forum, but not determinant of like allocation of funds, and not an entity that would handle funds in any way. So all of this has yet to be determined, and it's very early in the process. I think maybe referencing those kind of topics would be strong, but focusing the ask on transparency and the internal governance of the task force going forward would probably be a more actionable request.
Thank you, David. Are you proposing any changes to the language of the current resolution or an amendment?
I mean, my proposal would be to relegate references to some specific amount of funds and some terms that were announced as part of a deal with a tenant to points that are maybe mentioned in the resolution, but not necessarily specific items to try to resolve until we have more facts about them. I mean, we're all kind of feeling our way around this. There's some public language, but all of this is probably governed by, leases and things that have been signed off on. We need to discover those things. And that's where the request for transparency is strong.
Okay.
So
is the echo back?
No, you're good.
No, you sound good.
So I hear that, David, because we're talking about, it's better if we know exactly what the deal is before we start asking our own terms, and we don't know, like the $5 million. Well, John explained it very well, but once we know what the task force, we can resolve to do this tonight, and still send a letter when we have more information about the deal. But the resolution is about, as we know that Sunset Park Task Force will be in some advisory capacity for this, we could send that, and that's our resolution. And when terms come of the deal, how much they're getting, we'll still know.
Right, and that's where I'm not proposing that we amend the resolution necessarily, or the sound of a letter that's sent. It's just I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves discussing specific terms about allocation of funds and who's in charge of this and that before we even really know what we're talking about. So I think all of this should happen, but quickly, but step by step. And the first step is getting at the table and getting some transparency about the internal process of the task force. Remember, the spirit of this was around the fact that the task force is already reconvening and redefining itself, and that in itself needs transparency. So yay to the ask. I just want people to understand, there are some steps along the way, and I don't want us to get too caught up ahead of ourselves on details about things we don't really know about.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. So Dan,
it's a friendly amendment. Yeah, accepted. So it's fine. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Dan on the motion and on the resolution?
So this is Cindy. So can we just read out the resolution one more time, please?
Yeah. Sure. The language is any language I'll be changing on the fly because of John's I'm sorry, David's amendment. Whereas Sunset Park Task Force has been given direct influence over a $5 million fund, so that language would be changed to more accurately reference the actual numbers and the actual roles. Whereas the rest is pretty standard. The rest is whereas Sunset Park Task Force is currently reviewing its policies internally, but has not stated if the public will be involved in those conversations. We could put not yet stated if you want to be more diplomatic, but resolve that EDC, SBIDC, and Councilman Menchaca's office host a public meeting as soon as practical to allow for public comment on the future of the Sunset Park Task Force, its rules, responsibilities, and operating procedures. That is it.
Okay, so I think we should go to the vote. Julio, do we want to do a roll call vote?
I mean, if there's no objection to unanimous consent,
so
barring the Cindy voting present.
Right. So are there any objections to unanimous consent to this motion and to this resolution?
You could unmute yourself and state your objection.
Okay, having heard none, then the motion carries by unanimous consent. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Can we just state also barring
for the record, yes.
Yeah. So barring my vote.
Barring one member voting
present.
Correct. So hearing no objections, the motion passes by unanimous consent, barring Cindy Vanden Bosch voting not present.
Voting present.
Voting present, I'm sorry. Voting present, yep. Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Julio. Okay, let's go to elected officials and representatives. Jeremy, do we have a list of folks that you can help me read out?
Sorry, yes, I do. I'm gonna call out some names and I will turn them into panelists so they can unmute themselves. Would that be all right? So I have Edward Cerna first.
Okay, let's go with
Edward, I'm turning you into a panelist.
Hello, everyone. Edward Cerna here, Brooklyn Borough Director for the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. First off, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm glad to see so many familiar faces. I want to talk about vaccines. In the last 24 hours, we have given 40,000 doses of the vaccine. But as has been widely reported, we're facing some supply issues. The Moderna vaccine deliveries have been delayed. 23,000 appointments have been rescheduled as a result. However, we do have the Brooklyn Army Terminal, which is the mega site for Brooklyn, which operates 24/7. And I know that there were some issues there last week, but I will talk about that shortly and happy to field questions. In regards to the supply lines, we're asking the state and federal government to open those up and not to hold on to doses. We've also announced a goal to vaccinate 50,000 seniors in NYCHA, and we'll be working with the TLC and other city resources to make sure that we have transportation for those seniors. As always, check the state's website to see what the criterions are for eligibility. We started off with folks 75 and older. We've lowered that to 65 and older, and with folks who are immunocompromised. So please check the state's website for that guidance. But insofar as you've done your homework, you know you're eligible, you can go to vaccinefinder.nyc.gov to find the locations nearest to you, or by calling 877-VAX4-NYC, which is 829-4692. Lastly, there was a change in food vending enforcement. So the Department of Consumer Wellness and Protection is now the coordinating agency for street vending activity. As coordinator, the agency will manage and track vending complaints, inquiries, and referrals from the general public, community boards, business improvement districts, advocates, and elected officials. On the enforcement side, it's going to be multi-agency. So you'll have Department of Health and Mental Hygiene enforcing safety protocols and so far as violations of food safety. You'll have DCWP, Parks, Sanitation, DOT, and Department of Environmental Protection. NYPD's role in this new approach is very limited, but it will include criminal violation and seizures for, let's say, example, counterfeit goods. There is going to be sort of a phased-in approach to this because, again, we want to do more education than enforcement. So phase one will be exactly that, educating business owners. There's going to be walkthroughs of major commercial avenues that's going to be done in conjunction with the bids. And there's going to be engagement with the boards. So that's going to sort of be rolled out throughout the year. Now to conclude about some of the issues at Brooklyn Army Terminal, I'm sure some of you saw there was a tweet that was circulated that caused like a huge surge of people to come down at Brooklyn Army Terminal. I was called to respond to that insofar as to assist with the management of the crowds and the swelling of the crowds, in conjunction with like Captain Castro, Community Affairs Officer Suzanne Alexander, and then other, colleagues of the NYPD. We dispersed folks, and that's sort of what I have to say about that issue on my end, but I'm happy to take any questions back, and if there's any other questions to get and push for those answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. And so, yeah, I think, first of all, I'm glad you brought that up. We've heard from a lot of constituents about what happened at the Brooklyn Army Terminal, and, utterly unacceptable. And I hope that you'll be able to take that back to the folks in the administration. I think you saw it caused a lot of folks to be pretty distressed and confused, and the turnout was pretty massive. So I think we need to figure out. I mean, I think people have a lot of really serious questions about how this could happen, and what can we be doing to prevent this in the future. I mean, I think already there's a whole bunch of misinformation out there about just the vaccine itself. This now bleeds into the implementation and the administration of the vaccine. And, this is really serious stuff. And so what happened over the weekend was really distressing to a lot of people. And I think there are a lot of questions, and we would like some answers. I think there's a lot of people who are expecting some answers, not just to what caused what happened on Saturday, over the weekend, but how are we going to prevent this from happening in the future? People are really anxious about this whole pandemic, and there's a lot of anxiety about the administration of the vaccine. So I for one would love to request that someone from the administration come before this community to talk about what happened and how we're going to move forward in a more orderly way. I mean, we can't have this mass chaos every time someone, whether it was an inadvertent tweet or whatever the case might have been. There needs to be, I think, from my perspective, a much more systematic and controlled way of getting information out to folks, but also managing people's expectations and the process by which we do this stuff. So I, for one, want to sort of put this on you to really communicate back to the administration that what happened over the weekend is really unacceptable. And with that, I'm going to recognize Pat, then Julio, then Alexa.
Hi, Edward. Thank you for the report. My question is in regard to immunocompromise. How do you prove that? Do you have to prove it? Or you can just go and just say, I have whatever the hell I have, and you'll get a vaccine shot?
That is a great question. Again, I'm not and this is by no means me trying to evade it. I'm just really not the subject matter expert on that criterion and the interpretation of like the language of that. I think I do agree with what Chair Zuniga suggested, that someone from the Department of Health and Test and Trace come before the board to answer those questions.
I hope that could be done sooner rather than later. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Edward.
No, thank you for that question. I'm sorry I don't have the answer, but thank you, Pat.
Julio, and then Alexa.
Thank you. And thank you earlier, because I know we've been emailing back and forth, and I appreciate the work you've been doing. And I guess this is more of a suggestion and an ongoing thing. And reading an article earlier today saying that there's going to be limited vaccines, and there's a shortage. I'm just wondering, moving forward, I think if we can find a way to better streamline communication from health and hospitals, or just make sure that there's more, any kind of communication goes through official channels. And if we can figure out like how to make streamline those communications so that we can avoid social media frenzy, because it was pretty chaotic. And I was guilty of that myself. And, you know, given what we've seen, that can take off pretty quickly. So I'm more than happy and more than ready to dive into that. But yeah, so thanks.
Thank you, Julio. I'll be taking that back.
Thank you, Julio. Alexa?
Hi, Edward. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for the report. I was curious about, you know, education efforts in the community. What is that looking like? Is it going to ramp up some more? Because there is quite a lot of work to do, and particularly education in language that is accessible. And we've had a lot of barriers for folks. I know with the registration that it's not in Chinese and the other languages of our community. So if you could talk to us a little bit about kind of what the educational outreach plan is for our community, address language access and other kind of registration barriers. We know the interface on the computer is not user friendly at all. And when we're thinking about our seniors who've had to make accounts and register here and register there, we're having really a lot of problems.
Thank you, Alexa. Yeah, you know, our children's education is paramount. I don't have an answer to that offhand, but what I will say is there's actually a meeting this Friday between the board and DOE with some of the superintendents, where that's going to be an opportunity to air some of those exact concerns and get answers directly from the superintendents. We can take that offline. Julio and the board should be aware of that meeting. So I'm going to be on that call as well, and I will raise it then.
Edward, I was under the impression that was like a legislative breakfast.
No, they're going to speak as to what DOE is doing currently, but there is a space for boards to also communicate to them like what some of the needs and things are that they're hearing on the ground. So, I mean, that wasn't my understanding that it was going to be a legislative breakfast.
And I'm sorry, just for clarification purposes, I was asking actually a bit more broadly about what the education outreach is around the vaccination to the neighborhood. Like, are there certain organizations that are being allocated some additional resources, our community partners, to do increased outreach to our community about the vaccines, what it is and how to access it? So it was more particular to the vaccines.
To the vaccine, yeah, that work should be taking place. Some of that outreach work is taking place with test and trace, and as we know, vaccine information is being pumped out. You know, Moya is involved in that. We have contracted some of that work out. But again, like specifically as it relates to the education piece and the children, I would ask to let's take that offline, and I can circle back tomorrow with specifics on it.
Okay, thank you, Edward. And I think we're gonna move pretty quickly with probably, no, not probably, through the Health and Mental Health Committee to organize some kind of a meeting soon, and hopefully we can get some of the folks from Test and Trace and from the Department of Health to come in and speak to us about this vaccine rollout. So we'll be connecting with you relatively soon about that. Okay, who's next, Jeremy?
So let me just say to Maria and Natasha, we have some new elected officials and new reps. I may not know all their names, so please text me or make them panelists if you can, and we will call on them. The next person I have is Freda Zurita.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. So a few updates from Senator Myrie's office. So there's an eviction prevention hardship declaration form that's now available. It is up on our website. Just the context of it. So the tenants who, any tenant who has lost income or had increased costs due to the pandemic, or for those who moving would be a significant COVID-related health risk, are protected until May 1st, 2021 for non-payment of rent. And then property owners who have lost income or had increased costs due to the pandemic are protected from foreclosure and tax liens until May 1st as well. So there is a declaration form on our Senate website. And it is in also language accessible. It's also in, we also have a Spanish version of that form on our website. Another update we have is from the Flatbush Leadership Academy, who we partner with. They have a great program called Becoming a Flatbush Leadership Academy Mentor. So beginning this month, January, the Academy is offering a youth mentorship program serving both males and females based in Central Brooklyn between the ages of 16 to 21. It's a 12-week innovative program which recruits and supports at-risk youth as they journey through their personal growth and their development. So through creative, positive peer support and structure and meaningful mentorship relationships, it allows them to cultivate being successful leaders. So we have that on our website as well, but you can also just go to the website. It's www.godsquadnewyork.org/FLA, and you can find more about that program and how to apply for it. Another update we have is from the Chinese American Sunshine House related to mental health workshops. So starting February 18th for their spring 2021 remote series, they're going to be offering workshops every Thursday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. via Zoom. And this Zoom information is on the flyer. I can send that over to Natasha and we can blast that out. And Chinese American Sunshine House is also offering parenting classes for the spring 2021 remote series. Also starting February 18th, every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. also via Zoom. And both of these are 8-session programs. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Freda. Next.
Cesar, can I ask a
Cesar, you have
question?
one hand up. It's Victor.
Sure, Vic, go ahead.
I have a question pertaining to renters and owners. Has there been any discussion dealing with any type of grants or forgiveness program coming after May 1st? Because I sense this is like kicking the can down the road after May 1st, unless they extend it again. Our renters and these owners are going to have some problems coming after that time. Had there been any discussion up in Albany pertaining to that?
Oh, hi. Yes, thank you for the question. To my awareness, I am not aware, but I can circle back with you. I'll also just put in my email, my government email, and I can circle back with you, Victor, if you'd like to give you an update on that.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Okay.
Jenny Zhang was introduced before, but she wasn't here. I'll give her the opportunity since this is her first meeting.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. My name is Jenny. I am the incoming Chief of Staff to new Assembly Member Marcela Matenis. We are in the process of building our district office and our Albany office, but have many, many plans for everything. Just one announcement. I don't know if people got to this earlier, but we are planning on having a housing rights town hall next Thursday, the 28th of January at 7 p.m. We will be talking about the eviction moratorium that goes until May 1st, along with options for canceling back rent owed by people going forward, because, you know, as soon as the eviction moratorium is lifted, we expect that many tenants will be at risk of eviction from back rent owed. So we're really excited to be working with all of you in building this new office, building expertise in different policy areas, serving constituents, and I hope to work more with you going forward.
Thank you, Jenny. Welcome. Okay, Nick, you have a question?
Yes, specifically, so, and look, I get it. You know, we need to keep everybody housed during the pandemic. My question is more in line with Victor Swinton's earlier, which is, what is the long-term plan out of Albany to address what will likely be a very large eviction and monetary conundrum for a large portion of the city? I mean, 45% of New York City's revenue is derived from property taxes, and you know, I believe at present there's about $4 to $5 billion of rent that has not been paid to landlords during this period of time. And you know, the money's going to have to come from somewhere. There's going to be pain for everybody, you know, specifically on the landlords, also for the tenants so they can stay housed. But at the end of the day, when the crisis is over, there needs to be some sort of plan. And I don't know if there's been any sort of thinking towards that end. Can you speak to that?
Sorry, is that a question for me?
Yes.
Oh, yes. So there's currently a plan in Albany. There is a proposal being championed by Julia Salazar and Yuling Niu in the Assembly, which would actually propose to create a landlord hardship fund, specifically to address struggling landlords that may have lost income from their tenants during this period. In addition to that, you know, we're seeing declining tax revenues at the city level from exactly what you mentioned, property tax revenues coming down, property valuations coming down. And there are proposals at the state level to increase tax revenues by primarily taxing the wealthy. Those are all proposals that are in the works. If this is something people are interested in learning more about, please feel free to reach out to me, to Marcella, to David, who is our other staff member on this call. You can reach us at, I don't know how to put emails in the chat. I don't think I saw a chat, but you can reach us at jenny@marcellaforny.org. or david@marcellaforny.org as well. There's a lot going on kind of in the background, but we want to get the community involved in this process in formulating the legislation that we're going to be fighting for. We know that a big crisis is coming, and so we want to be prepared.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Nick. Okay, next up, Jeremy.
May I make a comment?
You have a question for the
Jenny? I want to make a comment about, she said
okay.
About the housing.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Her plan in the future, she said one of the options was taxing the wealthy. I think that's a big mistake as it is. Half the wealthy have moved out of New York. The other half will have a foot out the door. So I think they need a better option than just taxing people to death. That's not going to cover the rent.
Thank you, Marilyn. Next up, Jeremy.
So I just had a request, and Jenny does not have to do this, but for our other reps, especially if you're new, we'd love to see your faces so we could get to know you. If you stop your video, we just ask that you show your face at some point. And John Watkins put his hand up, but he actually is next.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year to you. My name's John Watkins. I'm calling from the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, and DA Gonzalez sends his well wishes to everyone in the community. And for the past several months, especially since the fall, DA Gonzalez and his staff have been very busy out in the community, really helping in many ways, participating and leading many food distributions in all corners of Brooklyn. And his efforts continue in many other ways as well, even with the toy drive that we had back around Christmas and the holiday times. The only announcement that I have is that on January 25th and 27th, the DA's office is hosting a human trafficking event. And what I'll do is I'll send the information to Cesar and to Jeremy to post it. But this is very important for this community in particular that oftentimes is challenged by people who are doing human trafficking. It's a year-round kind of activity, and it never ceases. And there are many people that are victimized by this. And the DA and his team, as well as other partners such as the NYPD and other law enforcement agencies, and even community agencies are really teaming up to address this. So on the 25th of January will be the first part of this event, and it is really for the clergy. It's a kind of a training for the clergy to be able to be aware of human trafficking, the human trafficking problem, and what they can do to when they see see these issues, and who to report it to and how to take action on it. And then on the 27th, 1 week from now, this will be an open forum where people can participate in this from the community via Zoom. Both of these meetings are Zoom meetings, and they will begin at 5 o'clock. And what I'll do is I will send the information along to be posted. That's all that I have for right now, but for myself and DA Gonzalez in the Brooklyn DA's office, Happy New Year, and hopefully we'll have an amazing, healthy and happy 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I have Nancy Corona next.
Okay, Nancy, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you for having me here. My updates will be quick. Just a reminder that our office has a partnership with CUNY Citizenship Now. Since the last meeting, we weren't able to share this, but now every Tuesday, CUNY Citizenship Now hosts appointments exclusively for anybody who needs any support with any process related to DACA or any consultations related to DACA, since most of DACA has been reinstated. So if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to call our office to be directed to CUNY Citizenship Now for appointments, or you can call directly, and I'll also share that in the Q&A so that everybody has the phone number. Another issue that's been coming up to our office, or concern that we've received a lot of calls about, is ID NYC and the lack of pop-up sites or lack of sites and availability to get an ID. And we know that at this time, there are many people who don't have any form of identification without ID NYC. So we are working with city admin to secure locations in the district. Currently, some locations are being scouted, but we want to make sure that the locations are safe for in-person renewals. Aside from that, I just want to add a quick note that we are in terms of City Council, the discretionary funding, capital, and expense application filing period is in full swing. So that is relevant to any eligible CBOs. But if anyone has any questions, that includes constituents, you can feel free to reach out to me, and I'll also include my email in the Q&A. That's all for now, but if anybody have any further questions or wants to reach out, I'll add our information as well. Thank you.
So anyone have questions for Council Member Menchaca's office?
Cesar, I have a question for Nancy.
Go ahead.
Hi, Nancy. Natasha from Community Board number 7. I received a few phone calls from residents who wanted to, I guess, see either Carlos or someone from the office. And I informed them I'm not sure if you guys are doing in-person appointments. So what is the best way for people to reach out to your office if they wanted to speak with someone on your staff or speak with Carlos?
Yeah, no, we haven't been able to, unfortunately, resume in-person services.
That's why I told the person.
Yeah,
no.
But I will add our information. The best option is to direct them to our phone, which when you look up the office, the phone line connects to 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Chinese. So I'll actually pick up the Spanish calls, but we have other staff members who are able to pick up the phone directly. If for any reason you can't reach us or the person prefers to reach via email, you can reach out to any of our staff members, but I'll go ahead and add that information as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Natasha. Next,
Thank you. I have Fazia Siddiqui.
Hey folks, I'm going to keep it pretty short today. So I am Councilmember Lander's new community liaison for District 39. So now a lot of updates going on. District 39, we're still collecting fresh direct bags for redistribution to food pantries and mutual aid groups. So if anyone has fresh direct bags, just fold them up and drop them off at our 4 locations, which I can just circulate. Otherwise, not a lot of updates, and I will just drop my email in the Q&A below, unless anyone has any questions for me. That's it.
Thank you so much. Any questions for council members, Brad Lander's office? Okay, next.
I have Sherman Jackson next.
Sherman, the floor is yours. Okay, I don't think Sherman is with us.
I just asked him to unmute.
Nope.
And we just lost him. Okay.
No problem.
Then I have Taika Haraguchi.
Taika?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Hey, everyone. My name is Taika Haraguchi. I am with Comptroller Scott Stringer's office. First of all, Happy New Year. And happy Inauguration Day. Here's to a better year ahead. It's good to be back here this evening with Community Board 7. So I just have a few quick updates to share. Number 1, our annual paid summer internship posting is now open for matriculated college students to apply. The deadline is March 5th, 2021, and all candidates must apply via our website to be considered. The program is about 9 weeks from June 7th to August 5th, and the interns work 28 hours a week on Monday to Thursday. Jeremy, I don't know if there's a place I can drop the link.
You could send it to us, or you could actually put it in the Q&A also.
Okay, I will try and put that in the Q&A after then. Secondly, the comptroller released a plan to make sure that New York City small businesses get their fair share of the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP funding, as the program reopened on January 11th. This program was intended to support small businesses by helping them retain staff and stem job losses. However, analysis released by our office found New York City lagged far behind in its share of eligible businesses that received a loan. So just 12% of the more than 1.1 million employee-based and non-employer businesses in the city received a loan, compared to more sparsely populated and less economically impacted states such as North Dakota and South Dakota, where more than 20% of businesses received a loan. So the report also showed notable disparities between boroughs and industries receiving these loans, with nonprofits getting minimal support through the program. So I will drop a link to our report in the Q&A after as well. And finally, the comptroller released a Fair Shot NYC plan for vaccine equity. Fair Shot NYC is our plan to ensure that New Yorkers across backgrounds, income levels, occupations, and age groups have equitable access to vaccines as the city ramps up the distribution. It includes recommendations for more transparency and outreach to increase access for communities of color, lower income neighborhoods, and immigrant New Yorkers. The comptroller called on the city to release demographic data in real time, broken down by age, race, profession, and zip code, mandate businesses provide paid time off for employees who need to get vaccinated, and drastically scale up outreach and education through public advertising campaigns and local community leaders and organizations. So just to dive a little bit deeper into one of the recommendations, releasing demographic data in real time. So the data would reflect who received vaccination shots to date, with breakdowns by age, race, profession, zip code, allow for people to track in real time the availability of doses in their neighborhoods, ensure that there is broad racial equity in the provision of the vaccine, and that New Yorkers of all backgrounds and incomes are able to receive this vaccine. So I will drop that link in the Q&A as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Taika. I've reached the end of my list. I might not know all of our reps anymore. So attendees, if you are a rep and I just don't know your name yet, you could please raise your hand right now. I see none.
Great. Okay, so let's move it forward. Let's go to district manager's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. The Sunset Park, I met with the folks from the Sunset Park Library last week. Grab and Go starts at Sunset Park Library, I believe next Tuesday. I'm not sure the exact startup date, but I believe it's going to be Tuesday. The plan is to have 50 of the 60 Brooklyn Public Library branches open for at least Grab and Go service by mid-February. I have no word yet on the opening for the Windsor Terrace Library, however. Some of you may be aware that I believe it was last week or the end of the previous week, Councilman Menchaca was informed by a source about the possibility of another homeless shelter coming to 25th Street. I heard back yesterday from the Department of Homeless Services in an email, and they tell me that they are not considering a site on 25th Street. That is just a rumor that they are not moving forward on well, this is my language anyway. I usually don't highlight our committees because I don't want to promote one over the other, but there are a couple I want to promote that are coming up. Unfortunately, these are the only ones on our agenda right now, so I'm not promoting one over the other. But Ability and Access is meeting on Monday, the 25th. And that is going to be about a very interesting public bathroom proposal, not specific sites. I don't want anybody to think this is about specific sites, but it's a proposal for the city that's actually being presented to us first by a study group. I just want to point out, you may notice the bottom of your screen that we have closed captioning. This is a new service that we have now from Zoom. In the past, we had to use an outside service and pin your screen, but now this should be a permanent feature for us on Zoom meetings, including our committee meetings now that we have closed captioning. Importantly also, our Parks Committee is meeting on the 28th. And there will be a part of the agenda about an art installation at Sunset Park, but also Steiner Studios is coming to begin the discussion and actually scoping for a new playground for Bush Terminal Park. So they want as much buy-in as possible. So they really would like me to invite as many people as possible to join that meeting so they can hear back from the community. We have sent emails out to 12 community-based organizations asking them to help us with the outreach. Steiner has told us that all their materials will be in English, Spanish, and Chinese. We are looking into having, or actually I'm having them look into having translation services for that meeting so we could get as great a buy-in from as wide a population as possible in the community. At the end of December, we were given a half hour's notice for a meeting, a district manager's only meeting with the Office of Management and Budget. I was on vacation that day to inform us that community boards will be getting a budget cut of about $3,600 this year. The district managers met afterwards, and so far we are resisting giving them our cut plan. But this is for what is likely going to be a February budget mod. However, we know that the now President Biden, has proposed a new COVID relief package, which also has money for cities, which could relieve the New York states and cities, which could relieve the city and state of some of its worst budget cuts. So hopefully we'll be hearing better news on that. But in addition to that, we are also slated, all community boards are slated for a baseline cut of $8,000 in the next fiscal year, which will be fiscal year 22, which starts July 1st. I was going to talk a bit about the Army terminal fiasco last week. I'll leave it with what Edward said. I will just say we were at a meeting when we started hearing about that at our economic development meeting. The words that were used to us at that time were hoax. And we were asked to put out information on the social media about the hoax at the Army terminal. And then we found out the next day that it wasn't quite a hoax. So that was a spur of the moment decision. I apologize for putting out incorrect information on our social media, but as I said, it was a spur of the moment decision that we thought was the safest thing at the time. I want to remind people that they could go to vaccinefinder.nyc.gov, put in your zip code and find the closest place to get a vaccine. Of course, you have to be one of the qualified groups. Instead of my Army terminal info, I'm going to give you a very brief anecdote. My mom was scheduled to get her vaccination. She lives in Sheepshead Bay on Monday, and her appointment was canceled because they ran out of vaccines. This is happening in a lot of places. But she gave me a call today, 2 days later. They gave her a call. My cousin took her. She was able to get the vaccine, and she got her first shot today. So if you are canceled, your appointment is canceled, do not lose hope. Pay attention to your cell phone. Answer all calls. You don't know who it is. Pay attention to your email. They're going to reach out to you. It might be fairly quick. My mom was 2 days. You will get that call. Please get the vaccine. Liquor licenses, since our December meeting, there have been 27. December is traditionally our biggest month. And then finally, the police department stats we will publish with the minutes. That's it.
Thank you, Jeremy. So let's go to the chairperson's report. Very small report this month. Couple of things. I want to first thank Sam Sierra for serving as our public safety chair for quite a while. And I also want to announce that I'm appointing Cynthia Felix, thank you, Sammy, as the new chair of public safety. We spoke about her taking on the role of chair. She has accepted. I want to thank her for accepting. These are all very thankless jobs. So anytime anyone steps up, it's really appreciated. And one of the things that I want the committee to take on as soon as possible has to do with, and I will be reaching out to both Cynthia and Karen. We have all been getting a lot of, and say hello to Joaquin. A lot of complaints about public safety, quality of life and public safety issues related to some of the homeless shelters. I think we need to examine this. We need to look at it. We need to hear from our neighbors. I've personally seen along 4th Avenue, some unpleasant quality of life issues. And obviously for us, this is kind of an important topic. We established a committee because we are empathetic and because we want to support the homeless community. And we also need to take into consideration some of the quality of life issues that folks have been concerned about. So be on the lookout. We're gonna schedule a joint meeting between Homelessness Issues Committee and the Public Safety Committee to talk about, to hear from neighbors, and to maybe start to bring some pressure onto the administration to really help us with some of the ongoing issues. I don't know, some of our board members have been very vocal about this issue, so we want to make sure that we look into it as soon as possible. And the other I think big item for us to attend to through our committee structure is the vaccination. We, again, given what happened over the weekend, but also just in hearing folks talk about their concerns, their anxieties about the vaccine, and I think what Alexa raised about just general education. I think we need that in this community. I think we need to dispel some of the myths that are going around about just this vaccine in particular, but generally in the case of vaccinations. So I think through our through our health and mental health committee, we should engage the city to hold some kind of an event to talk about in a more public way the vaccination and its rollout. So that's all that I have, and absolutely want to take into consideration reinstating the Pledge of Allegiance. I think a couple of the board members who have weighed in about the significance of today and the sort of I think we're looking toward the future in a more hopeful, optimistic way, and I think it makes sense for us to re-engage with the pledge. So I'm going to leave it there, and I think Pat has her hand raised. So Pat, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I think that all the upcoming agenda items that you have slated for the safety committee are great, and I agree. But one topic that I didn't hear come up was the fact of the food truck vendor that exploded. I sent you an email about that. And I really think that it's also an important issue in regard to safety for not only our food vendors, but for the community itself. So I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but I think it's important and it should be somewhere in the list.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely, Pat. It was just a slip. Yes, that absolutely be part of the agenda. We had an incident earlier in the month where one of these food trucks caught fire, and from the pictures that I got, it was a pretty significant fire. And I think I think that absolutely is it absolutely comes under the domain of public safety, particularly because what we want to do, and one of the things that I'm going to have staff do, Jeremy and Maria, if you guys can reach out to the NYPD and to the fire department about that incident. I don't remember seeing any reports. We usually get reports when there are fires or big incidents, and I don't remember seeing one for that. I expect that there would have been, because given the size of that fire, I just can't see how someone could put it out without the fire department. So I would love for you guys to reach out to them and get us some information. And also, I think would love to hear as we move forward, what are some of the safety plans around, safety as it relates to food vendors. So this is strictly, for me, the way that I'm looking at this whole issue with the food vendor is strictly a public safety issue. Obviously, there's an economic development issue. I don't think anyone is suggesting that we somehow ban or limit or create any kind of problems for our street vendors. But the fire that I saw, and I believe there was also some property damage, I think it really warrants just some conversations around safety protocols related to food trucks in particular. So with that, I'm going to allow Cynthia Felix to say a few words about her new role.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you. I look forward to the role of public safety, of chairing the committee. In fact, the taco truck blew up in front of my house. So it was a very scary incident. The driver and no one wasn't hurt, but that was just by the grace of God. It was a very scary incident. There was, luckily the propane tanks did not blow up, but it certainly brought to light a lot of concerns about food trucks and just the safety of them. And we're getting so many now, so many are moving away from where they normally were in downtown Brooklyn and in Manhattan, because many jobs are closed. So they're coming here because we have Fifth Avenue and they're able to sell it. The owner was not the driver, it was a worker, and he just was hearing sounds and pulled over. I live by the hydrant, and the whole thing went on fire, and nobody knew if he was in there. And the fire department did come. It was a really big thing. So it was a scary moment for the block, as to say the least. And not getting information about it was the fact that made me want to really be on public safety, because I think that people need to be transparent about things that are happening in the neighborhood. So I look forward to working with the community and hearing their issues and how could we resolve them together, and working with Karen as we deal with the homeless shelters that are moving in and some of the concerns that have been brought up by the community. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, Sammy, for offering to guide me. I really appreciate you. And I'll be calling you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Sammy. Again, Gladys.
Yeah, speaking about transparency, I want to know if we got any news or word on a main break that was here on 52nd and 7th Avenue, you know, like what caused it, because there was people in this whole area didn't have water until the next day. Yeah. But we never heard what happened or anything about it.
So
and it was a big break.
Yeah, I don't recall hearing a cause for that one, but I could reach out to DEP on it.
That would be great. That would be great, because I don't remember seeing anything either. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so just on the topic of the food truck, I'm very sorry to hear about this unfortunate event. I do work in my professional life with street vendors, and I just wanted to say that if this is an item on the agenda, that if we are going to be discussing regulations, there are so many regulations around the fabrication of carts and trucks. And so we should have someone from the Department of Consumer Affairs, as well as DOHMH. DOHMH, I believe, regulates the sort of fabrication and design of the carts and trucks, and perhaps someone from the Street Vendor Project, so that we are having a constructive discussion that isn't targeted like more broadly at just street vendors in general, who are already sort of an industry that I feel is overregulated in ways that many small businesses are not in New York City. So I just want to make sure that the positioning of this within the Public Safety Committee is focused on that one event, and that we are having an informed conversation with representatives from the relevant agencies who understand and can walk us through the specifics of what is required in terms of safety with regard to food carts and food trucks if we're going to have that conversation.
100%. This is not about this. Yeah, absolutely. So let's, your suggestions were Street Vendor Project and someone from Consumer Affairs, and did you
and also DOHMH does the inspections on the fabrication of carts and trucks. I'm happy to discuss this offline about who we might want to bring into the room, but I just want to make sure we're having an informed conversation about this. If it is in public safety, that it's focused specifically on this instance and on being informed about fabrication and what the regulations are, so that it doesn't kind of spin off into something that isn't necessarily with that focus in mind.
So yeah, I'll reach out to you offline and we'll discuss it. Nick and then Rovika.
I'll be very brief. Mine's just a follow up to Cindy's comment. I would also recommend that you bring in the fire department's kitchen hood unit that would also do this, or a representative there too. Although they're not directly related, their expertise in terms of safety would be useful there. And then whenever we have that meeting, I would love to be a party to it.
Great. We'll do. Ravika?
I just wanted to second what Cindy said and add also that if we're going to have this conversation, we should also have street vendors and people who are affected by these rules and regulations to come in and talk to us also. Yeah,
great idea. And hopefully, ideally, it would be great if we could get the business who was actually affected, like whoever the business owner of the truck in question. I don't know if we have any details about which truck it was, which business it was, because I think that's absolutely right. We should make them part of the conversation to keep them in the loop. So if anyone has any information, Cynthia or Pat, about who the actual vendor was, and if there's a way for us to do some outreach to them, that would be fantastic. Gladys?
I wanted to ask, you know how when we were meeting in person, NYPD, a rep from 72nd would be there? Can they get invited to our Zoom meetings now?
I believe they're always invited, right?
Yes, and I believe they were here. I don't recall if it was last month or the month before, but they have been here recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they didn't report, that's why.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't say anything. That's why I'm asking. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pat?
I'm gonna hold off until that meeting is set up by the safety
Great.
committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I don't have anything else in my report, so let's move to old business. Pat? And then Beverly.
Go ahead, Beverly. I'm losing it with my mute, unmute, raise hand, put hand down.
Okay, Beverly, you're on. We can't hear you.
Unmute, Beverly.
Okay, how's that?
That's good.
Okay. I'm bringing this up under old business because I've been on the community board, I want to say about 18 years. Maybe Joan Body, Abida Sapio was probably here longer than I, but for all those years, we always started the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And can you hear me? And excuse me, Cesar, I don't know what there is to have discussion about this. I don't know why we're not going forward with it because we always did it. So I'd like to have a little more of a response about it, and perhaps we can still do it because today is a very special day.
Yeah, let's do it now. Again, if I wasn't clear, I apologize. Absolutely, let's reinstate it. And
thank you.
If you want to lead the pledge now, let's do it now. Go right ahead.
I went out to my outdoor space and I pulled in. It's a old and shabby looking, but everybody is okay with this.
Looks good.
Do it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In light of today and the optimism that I think we all feel, I think absolutely appropriate. And yeah, let's put it. And so let me try to be as clear as possible. Jeremy, for the next public meeting, let's put that back into the agenda.
And Beverly can bring her flag.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Joan, go right ahead.
I got the flu shot yesterday, and I would recommend it to everybody that is eligible because I feel absolutely fine. I took my temperature twice today, and I had no temperature. The only thing that I have is a little sore arm, but you get a sore arm when you get the flu shot. So when everybody is available to get it, is destined to get it, please get it. And I went to Coney Island Hospital, which is a trip for me, but it was very, very, very nice there. Very professional. It's a hospital. They gave me all kinds of paperwork to read. They gave me the appointment for the next shot. They gave me a card with what I was given that I have to bring back. So keep in mind, folks, that there's nothing wrong with the shot. And please, please have your parents schedule to go and get it. And when your age group comes up, please, please go and get it. That's it. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Joan. And everyone, let's listen to Joan. Absolutely, 100%.
Please. Beverly. Beverly. Yeah, she knows what I'm saying. Beverly.
I think you and her, you have something to settle, but.
I got the shot also.
Great. Thank you, guys. Okay, any other old business? Okay, I don't see any hands, so new business. Anyone have new business for us? Okay, great. Grisel, adelante, hermosa. Okay. Can't hear you.
Hey.
Grisel, you have to unmute. Grisel?
We unmute her.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just want to inform, good. I just want to inform that United Senior Center of Sunset Park continue working very closely with the seniors. We continue making the wellness check call and also another activities in order that the seniors be, the fines that they can be. We are working also calling them for the vaccine, to encourage them to have the vaccine if that is possible for them. So we working to see where they're gonna have that vaccine. So I continue in different meetings, with different organizations to see where I'm gonna send my seniors to get the vaccine, if they want to have the vaccine. So we give the opportunity, we give the information. DIFTA always are checking, to be sure that the senior receive the best of the best. Also, I continue register seniors for the lunch, for the delivery lunch. So if you know any seniors that need lunch, please also let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work that you do. Really
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other new business? Okay, I'm seeing no hands, so let's go to public comment. Anything?
I have Lauren Avellino.
Okay, go ahead. Floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Hi, did you call on Lauren Avellino?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. My headphones were screwy. Happy Inauguration Day. My name is Lauren Avellino. I'm the manager of community affairs at New York Presbyterian Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for hosting this meeting. I came maybe a year ago to a CB7 meeting, and I just wanted to make a few announcements. Earlier in the meeting, there was mention of asking the city to do some more vaccine education. I have emailed the CB7 general email. New York Presbyterian can certainly do vaccine education in English and Spanish and Chinese. So we are happy to coordinate those with CB7. In addition, the hospital has a number of free support groups and programs. I'll provide a link in the Q&A. Also, we are about to launch the Center for Community Health, which is an outpatient, the largest outpatient building in Brooklyn for the past 30 years. It's opening in stages, beginning with some chemotherapy infusion patients starting next week. And then in March, it's going to be the bigger opening with the same-day surgery. So I will put a link with more information to the Center for Community Health. And I will also in the chat, I will leave my email if anyone has any questions. Happy to talk offline. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Jeremy?
So it shows me I have a hand up, but I don't see anybody's hand up. Oh, no, down with the hand is down. So I see nobody else.
Okay, so I think that should do it for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
That was Pat Ruiz and Nick Azadian for the record.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you next month. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Stay safe.